Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here on this beautiful Monday morning with Daniel Naor, who is definitely one of our most demanded guests on the Weekly Energy Boost.
A VIP on the show.
Absolutely. Veteran VIP. Actually, I think, Daniel, I might say this every time you're on, I think you were on the first episode of the podcast.
I think so too. I remember those days.
So that we've obviously evolved tremendously since I think it's 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where every week myself, sometimes David, sometimes other guests, we help our listeners in creating the most impactful seven days possible. But as we explore the Kabbalistic wisdom and tools around the energy of each week, we inevitably end up sharing practical tools and wisdom for any week of the year. And this week is no different. The reason we are talking about healing, before I turn the mic over to Daniel, the reason we talk about healing this week is that the influence, perfectly timed cough from Daniel. Daniel is, of course, recovering from a cold, so it's more relevant than ever to have him here. So he can speak.
It's all aligned.
So he can speak from experience. And not preaching to the choir.
Exactly.
But it really, this is the week on the Kabbalistic calendar that we learn not only the secrets of healing from the text of the cardinal text of Kabbalah, which is the Zohar, but also we learn, and that's essentially what we do every week, is we look at what the Zohar says and we translate it into those practical wisdom and tools. So this week, as the universe has increased or amplified the availability of healing energy, which culminates at the end of the week on Saturday, what we're doing is bringing that to the forefront of our consciousness so that we can take advantage of and, in a way, reprogram ourselves for greater health, greater well-being, a stronger immune system, which really starts in our consciousness. So where do you want to start, Daniel?
Well said. Well said. Well, where do we start, right? So healing has so many levels, right? So when we talk about healing, first of all, we must say that it's not just physical healing. There is emotional healing. There's mental healing. There's healing on many, many levels. So sometimes it's a direct soul healing, as something is hurting inside. And of course, many times it expresses itself later on. The effects are symptoms in the body. That's already the later wake-up call where there's a signal there and said, hey, look at this symptom. Look at this wake-up call. There's something that is lacking inside. There's something that is not at peace within you. And so it shows as a physical symptom in one way or another. And there are different parts of the body that are signaling different things. I don't know if that's the angle that you wanted to start with.
I am fascinated by that. Let's go.
And we know it's also connected in Kabbalistic astrology. We also learn that there are different signs that are more prone or vulnerable to different parts of the body, right? For instance, we're in the month of Cancer right now. We know that for Cancer signs, the more vulnerable part is the abdomen, is the stomach.
The digestive system.
The digestive system, because like, how do I digest life, right? When I feel overwhelmed, when something is thrown at me and there are fears and insecurities and stress, it's the way that I digest my reality in life, and I have a difficulty with that. It can potentially show up in that way, right? So for Taurus, right, it's like the neck is because the stubbornness and the flexibility, right? So how flexible are you? And that shows maybe stiff neck and stubbornness, right? We won't go over every sign right now, but just to give a few examples of how it shows up. So I think when it comes to healing, one of the most important things to perceive, to see, and to ask is, what is the function of that disease? Number one. Number two, what message does it contain? And they're actually two different things. So first is the function. I'll give you a quick example here. Oftentimes in the one-on-one sessions that I do in the Tikkun session, I often ask.
Daniel just said Tikkun healing. We'll talk more about that at the end of this week's episode, but it's a unique process that Daniel brings people through in order to work on their spiritual path and therefore all the areas of their life.
That's right. So oftentimes people come to you, oftentimes, of course, because they want to figure something out, or they want to heal something, or they want to understand something better. And it's not just disease. It can be like an emotion. It can be guilt. It can be sadness or certain fear. And at times it's express itself as certain symptoms, as disease in many forms. But whether it's a disease or it's a negative emotion or a block, it always has a function, right? So when it comes to disease or sickness, I'll just give that as an example.
And by the way, you're talking about maybe a person has chronic back pain, or
right.
a person suffers from sinus infections, right? It doesn't have to be a dis-ease as we
right.
might label it. It can be any kind of body discomfort or trouble that's trying to get our attention, that's taking our attention.
Exactly. Thank you for the examples. Exactly. Can be minor things many times. So the example that I give is for the function of ailment or disease or like discomfort. Let's say a person is in bed, right? Cannot move. And maybe it's a cold. Maybe it's even a flu, right? Actually, I'll share something personal here, okay? Because I just got over a cold. And I noticed something, because I'm not just telling people to do that. I try to do my best to reflect myself and use these tools. So I asked myself, why is it coming now, right? What's the function of having this cold right now? And what is the message? And the answer I got was actually pretty interesting. And the first time I saw it this way, I won't walk you through the whole process, but the bottom line, I realized that I had the need to be pampered. I really needed that. But I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to, for whatever reason. Maybe I felt it wasn't necessary. Maybe I thought I'm it's a weakness. I can push through this. I don't need, I'm strong enough. But really, I felt like I want to be loved. I want to be pampered. And I even felt like it was like a motherly love that I kind of tried to get. And so
it's so interesting that you say that, by the way. I happened to read an article about or a recommendation from a child psychologist who said that you should let your kids play hooky once in a while. Like, you should let your kids have a day off of school, because what they're finding is that kids feel like the only way they can have a break is if they're sick. So it's not even that they fake sickness, it's that they actually get a cold or get the flu or have some sort of trouble that they literally need to take a break from school in order to, they need to get that sick in order to take that break. So it was more of a teaching kids that they can take a pause, they can ask to be pampered. If they need a break, they can ask for it and not wait till they literally break down and take it.
Beautiful. Amazing, right? So we're doing it proactively,
right,
instead of waiting for...
That's the society that we've created, that you burn it, candle at both ends until you collapse. Right.
And it's not just with kids. I mean, I think just yesterday I had a conversation with someone that she told me that she was in bed for a whole week, and she realized that too, right? That like her body telling her slow down, right? And if we don't do it proactively, the body's telling us that, right? So I realized like I wanted even this motherly love, and like I couldn't get it. So I realized, okay, that's why it happened, right? So I actually went through a inner process myself and realizing I can give myself that love. And I did like a visualization for myself and what it feels like to get the love from my mother, because that's the energy that I was actually seeking, and realizing that energy is there. I can give it to myself. I don't need to make, and those are some of those limiting beliefs, that the only way for me to get pampered is when I make myself sick, right? And it's a limiting belief. It's not true. I can get that love without needing to get sick, right? So that is when we talk about the function of a cold or whatever that might be, right? Everything has a function, And the message is a different thing, right? What could be the message? The message is, okay, I need to learn how to give myself a break, or I need to learn how to give myself that love that I'm looking for, or how to ask for it proactively beforehand, right? That could be a possible message.
It's such a beautiful, I had no idea we were going to go there, but I love it so much because there are a lot of people who suffer from chronic issues and they don't realize that it's serving them and that there is another way to get that which they're being served with. Yeah. And I see it even, I know today as we're talking about healing, and I want to make sure that we do talk about the body and soul and all those things, but I see it even in people that an area of their life isn't healthy, right? Like we're talking about, of course, physical healing and wellness, but I know somebody I know somebody right now, but I've seen it over the years in being a parent, that people who tend to use their kids as an excuse for why they can't do things, why they can't, their schedule, they can't be social maybe, or they can't work as hard, or they use it as a crutch, their kids, which sometimes we can't do things genuinely because we have a family and we have responsibilities. But most of the time, no, I shouldn't say, many times people use their kids as an excuse. I wish I could, but I got to put the kids to bed, or I wish I could, but...
And sometimes that's serving them well, right?
Right. So this is the thing, that many times when we do that, it actually awakens something unusually demanding with the kids. Meaning the universe looks and says, that's the excuse. Let me show you what it means to not be able to do something because your kids need you. And to me, that's an important, I'm calling that out only because it's an example of how our headspace and our belief systems really create our reality.
Yeah.
So not only in the microcosm of the body, that, a person, I have seen very profoundly and clearly in my life how emotional well-being is really what creates our immune system. That any time, and I am not well read enough to say, please look at this report and this study and this research, but when a person is angry in a chronic way, their immune system is compromised and they're much more susceptible to getting a cold, getting a virus or catching something from someone else, because it's like they've left their defenses down by putting so much energy into a kind of negative space, negative vortex. They're saying, I'm going to take away from the reserves I do need and put it into something that is not constructive. And at the same time, think about it like this. I mean, I have it in my own home constantly. One kid gets sick and the others don't. Or two kids get sick and the other one doesn't. How is that possible? We're all, they sleep in the same room. They're breathing the same air. They're, flushing the same toilet, opening the same doors. And I'm good about cleaning and disinfecting and whatnot. But it's so obvious to me that when we're strong emotionally, it's much more, we have a stronger protective shield, not only against infectious disease, but also in terms of energy.
Yeah.
And it's really important to recognize in our own daily habits and behaviors and our routines that there may be certain things that are compromising our wellness that we don't even realize.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, I can totally see it for myself when I get in the zone where I get so... when there's a lot of things to do and I get overwhelmed and I get into this business mode, like I got to get things done, and I catch myself and I catch the energy in my body. I feel like how everything becomes tighter in my body. And really a lot of it, you mentioned about anger and all this emotion. I think one of the biggest emotion is definitely stress that's causing so many health issues. And we're so consumed by it in this society where, we're comparing ourselves to others and insecurities and like we need to get things done. But I can catch myself when I get into that zone of like stressed, overwhelmed, and how my body gets tense and my emotion and affects everything. And luckily, I have tools to stop myself oftentimes early enough to switch the energy, right? To switch the energy, to switch the emotion. So for me, a super important thing is to keep things fun and light, because I'm more productive that way, right? And I am healthier this way. And that's why, like, it says that there's tons of research behind why laughter is so important, right? And laughter is so conducive for healing, for releasing the stress, and so laughter is the best medicine, like they say, right? Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. One of my kids had a fever, and we put on, I'm not going to promote any particular TV show, but there is something on Netflix now that's hysterical for kids. And we watched it, and I saw how her mood improved. You know, a fever is a fever, right? The body is saying, I need to kill something. I need to raise the temperature so that the bug, the virus, whatever it is, will be compromised. And I saw how belly laughing, like it wasn't like, like she was literally, she could barely lift her head, but she was giggling and laughing at this thing. And I saw how, you know, we watched a few episodes, and then suddenly she wanted some water, and she asked for a piece of fruit, and it was like a real turning point. And I know it's something so simple, but we don't give enough credit to the impact of positive energy or positive influence, and we give too much energy to the negative. Like when you're saying life comes with its pressures, right? And sometimes, I mean, maybe now more than ever, or now especially, people are feeling stress and pressure from what's going on in the world, from what's going on economically, from what's going on. There's so many excuses we could give for why our stress is justifiable. We can't help it. It's out of our hands. So what else can we do but worry? But at the same time, even though those external events are not in our control, how we digest them and how we respond to them is completely in our control. And that to me is a big indicator of, it's not about being strong, right? Like that's kind of one of the traps of the ego. You want, you know, sometimes we have this voice inside us that tells us be strong or push through. You said a second ago, like I can plow through it or whatever.
Right.
Recognizing that that's not how we're supposed to be. Like we're not fighting for our lives in the jungle.
Yeah.
Kind of, we need to be on the defense all the time, hyper vigilant, you know, who's coming after me, or I need to protect my young. But that's how we live our lives these days.
Yeah.
Right? So on edge. And I really resonated with what you said, Daniel. Sometimes at the end of the day, I feel like my entire body is like coiled up like a spring from all of the demands and the information and the scheduling. But then I realized, wait a second, I actually control the valve on that. I can decide to diminish that pressure or to say I need a break, which is not, again, it's something that is essential. We're not meant to be running 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think I might have mentioned this before, but I met somebody last year who said to me, one of the interesting things that happened as a result of lockdown and whatever we went through in 2020, maybe 2021, is that work and home life have melded into one. So some people might say, yeah, it's so much better. I can work at home, less stress, whatever. But the other side of that coin is that you're never really not working anymore. Like the boundaries between home and work aren't there.
Right.
So you may be actually putting in more time because you sit down at the computer at 10 p.m., whereas before the computer was in the office and you couldn't go and finish your work then. Now you can. And so those boundaries are lost, and we're even more, I'm going to use the word intoxicated by the demands and the stress and the need to produce and perform. Whereas before the boundaries were more clear. Now I'm at home. Yeah, I have my phone. I can answer emails, but there isn't that anymore. They've morphed into one. And so I think we need to, I would love to be able to give our listeners some practices on being healthier about how we face things and address things and digest things, because especially in this week, obviously every week of the year it's important, but especially this week we have the universe shining a light on what's not healthy, what's not serving us. So where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, I think you bring up a very important point that I want to piggyback on, which is the idea, right? So overwhelmness, stress, all the things that laying on us and we need to do and accomplish. The bottom line of that is that it's bringing us out of the state of peace. And so, interestingly, Do we talk usually about the portions of the week?
No,
and stuff
but
like
it's totally apropos right now. We don't always do it, but it's
that? Okay, so do I have
please,
your permission?
you have my blessing.
Okay.
Go for
As
it.
long that's there. So we oftentimes look at the energy of the week based on the biblical portion, and the Zohar deciphers the secrets behind these stories that cannot be taken literally. So one of the very interesting things, and one of the reasons why in this week energy, we're talking about the energy of healing is available. There's an interesting word in the ancient writings and scripture for this week's portion and story and energy. And this is the word shalom. The word shalom means peace. And interestingly, or paradoxically, in this word shalom, there's one letter that is broken. It looks like a straight line, and there's literally like a crack.
Zorro was there.
Like Zorro, right? Like a crack right in the middle. So it seems like, okay, this peace, shalom also comes from the word shalem, which means whole, complete. And isn't it interesting? It's like almost like the Creator telling us, here you have the shalom, the peace and the wholeness, and I'll show you there's a break here, right? There's a cut through. And this is really a metaphor and a message for us in what healing is all about. Healing is all about returning that which was lost, returning it back to its source, right? Because at the source, we are actually really constantly, that's the reality, we are actually always connected to our source. The light of the Creator.
That's our natural state.
That's our natural state. I love that, right? The founder of the Kabbalah Centre, Rav Ashak, says that the most natural state for a human being to be at is in constant connection, constant contact with the light of the Creator. It's just that most of us lacking that awareness. We think we're lacking, we're missing, we're not good enough. If I had this, I feel lack here, and I'm not happy here, and not satisfied here. But
or I've got to be in nature to have that connection.
Right.
And I live in the city, so I can't be that connected unless I'm somewhere else.
Right. It's just another excuse, right? So returning that which was lost. So we lost our faith, or we lost our certainty, we lost our joy of life, and so when we're losing these things for all the good reasons, healing is to return those things back, to realize that we actually never lost them. There is no disconnect, right? But that's one of the reasons why we're here in this world, is to heal ourselves, to heal others, to heal the world, is to realize that really, how do I find that inner peace inside of me? So all the different things that you mentioned, right, the tools that we can use to bring ourselves back to that state, whether it's breathing, whether it's meditation, whether it's like pausing for a moment, whether it's like whatever the tools there are, laughter, whatever the tools are that we use, is to bring us back to that state of peace, of wholeness, of completion, to realize it's still here. All the answers and everything that I'm looking for is inside of me. It's not lost. It's an illusion that there is a brokenness. It's up to us to bring it together, right, to return that lost piece. And when we have that wholeness, when we feel that calm, that inner peace inside of us, and we train ourselves, and there's a way that we can train ourselves to feel that even in the midst of the busyness and the craziness, we can always go back inside to our heart and say, no, there's a part in the innermost inner point of my heart where everything is complete, where everything is one, where everything is restored. And it's there. I just need to put my attention to it and look for it. It's there. And when I find this point, and I constantly bring myself back, because it's normal, we deviate and we go to different places. It's normal, we're human beings, but I make an effort and attempt to bring myself back to this center point. That is actually where healing takes place. That is where healing takes place.
It's so interesting that you bring that up, because I think when I think about people I know who have, quote unquote, healed themselves, right? We always think of these miraculous stories of people who were diagnosed with cancer, let's say, and they went in to remove the tumor and it was gone. It wasn't even there. Or somebody just sent me a message yesterday about their father who was in a coma with COVID, and then one day just woke up and walked out of the hospital, right? Like, how do we explain those miraculous recoveries? And when I think about miraculous recoveries, I actually think about someone I know who went in for a routine checkup, and blood work and whatnot. And their blood work came back with a very serious result that basically determined, without getting into all the details, they would need to be on medication for the rest of their life. One of their organs was not producing whatever it needed to produce. It wasn't, originally diabetes. It's not diabetes. I actually don't remember exactly what it was. Kidney function, if I'm not mistaken, but it is what it is. So it was very concerning and would require life change in a technical, physical respect. And I don't think anybody wants to be on medication for the rest of their life for whatever reason. Although if you need to, you should, but it's definitely not a goal that any of us have, right? So we had quite a few conversations about it and what does it mean and what, like you're saying, what could the message be behind this potential threat? Because the doctors were not putting her on medication initially. They were saying, you know what, let's take 3 months and do the tests again and see if it's getting better, getting worse, or the same. So we had this sort of, how can we overhaul the system so that this is no longer, this wake-up call is no longer needed, which to me, I have seen, I can't even count the numbers of times over the years in doing this work. I've seen people who have a scare, make some sort of shift, and then nothing actually happened. Whether the doctors call and say, we made a mistake, everything is fine, or they actually improve their numbers or change whatever the reality is. And she was given, I don't remember, it was 3 months or 6 months before the retesting to let's see what happens. And she really took it seriously. We looked at many of the belief systems, like you were saying, that were false. Things like, my needs don't matter, I'm here to take care of everyone else, different things about, I think for some people, different situations in their childhoods required them to grow up too fast and they weren't able to be playful and joyful and have a good time the way some other people might have been. And she really took, I really am in awe of how seriously she took this mission of reprogramming, rebooting, resetting her boundaries. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say no. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Not only it's okay, it's essential to check in with myself and see, how do I feel about it? And am I giving myself permission to feel it's not an okay thing for me, or it is an okay thing for me? And that personal journey of exploration not only changed the numbers, meaning they said, listen, things are okay, you don't need the medication, but we're going to do this test every year. We're going to keep watching you, which to me was a message from the universe. You can't go back to what you were doing before, right? Because a lot of us, when the scare is over, we go back to the old behaviors and the old ways of thinking and the old routines and habits that don't serve us, right? We get scared, we behave for a little bit. I've seen it with people, by the way, who have heart attacks. I can think of at least 2 people I know that did this, that they had a heart attack out of the blue, changed their diet, started to exercise, going to bed early, cutting down on the drinking, stopping smoking, all the things. And then as checkups turned out better and better, they started to revert back to the old behaviors that could definitely have contributed to the illness. Right. So to me, the message of, we're going to keep an eye on you is kind of like the universe saying, don't slip back. Yeah. Don't go back to those old behaviors, because you will need to be compensated for that in different ways. Yeah. So when we talk about healing, right, I think in conventional medicine, the approach is definitely, and this is not a criticism, I go to actual doctors, I go to MDs. We're not talking about screw the establishment or anything like that. But the tendency is to look at the symptoms and to see how to alleviate the symptoms, that we want our patients to be happy and feel good. And that's not necessarily addressing the root of the challenge. And what Daniel was talking about the shalom, to me, shalom means complete also, right? That there is, that I'm complete. Not I'm complete. I am, no, I can't think of it. When you, but it's like, I'm good with what's happening. Yeah. I don't know exactly what the right word is for it, but it's like, no matter what's happening, I'm good with it. Yeah. And knowing that, to me, is also the certainty piece. It's the understanding the way the universe works, that everything in the world is really conspiring for my highest good. And it's my own reactions and responses. I can also share a personal example. Last night, Daniel was texting me about the show and different issues that we potentially could encounter. And my feathers were ruffled for about 15 minutes. And I was like, my goodness. And I've shared this on the show before. David does this to me on Sunday nights too. I can't come. You got to find somebody. I think the last time you were here was because David.
There's always something the day before, right?
There's always something and I was like, I forgot. There's always something the day before. Why? And what's interesting is that I actually have in those moments a biological response, which I think is really important to discuss, because you listeners may be having the same thing when you get upset and you don't even realize it. But this is actually proof that our emotional state affects our physical health. I started to get hot. So what does that mean when I'm getting hot? Okay, you can say it's anger, you're hot under the collar. We even have a euphemism for it. But what's really happening is my body is directing its energy to the wrong place. Meaning, if I were in the jungle and Daniel were serving me to the lions, I would have a good reason to be getting hot, and my body would basically be gearing up for a sprint to my cave, but there was no threat.
Right.
And it was subtle. It was really like, wow, I don't even feel good right now. And to have that realization, I really encourage everybody to pay attention and be more embodied this week. Be more tuned in and pay attention to when you turn on the news and you see something going on that's upsetting, how does it feel?
Yeah.
Watch how your body takes resources from your digestion, from your respiration, from your circulation, and puts it where it doesn't belong. Maybe now more than ever, it's going into the gut. Your gut is churning by what you're watching on television. Stop watching it.
Right.
Or at least put in that cassette, that consciousness of, the light is there, even if I don't see it right now. I know that the creator is a friendly force. I know that there is some good coming out of this, even if I can't see what, even if I can't see where, and then maybe turn off the TV.
Yeah. Pausing and noticing how we feel in our body is so important. Apropos, I took my daughter yesterday to a healer that she's working with the nervous system and the vagus nerve and stuff. She's also a somatic healer. And she's doing some really great work. And the first thing she told my daughter yesterday, she did different exercises with her, but she's telling her, how do you feel in your body, right? And starting them young, to realize how things feel in their body, and especially for kids, they're immediately tuned into that, right? So if you're grounding them, if you're just feeling their body, right, and feeling that tingling and knowing how to translate it into an emotion is such a valuable asset, such a valuable tool, right? Another thing that I remembered is from your talk now is healing on a different level, right? So not just healing from physical ailment or physical issues, but I remembered the other day I had a conversation with someone that they went through a serious breakup. They were about to get engaged, and so it was, these things can be pretty traumatic, right? Or at least leave a really strong mark, even on a soul level, right? If there was such a strong connection, now a breakup, and now you're dealing with the frustration, the sadness, the loneliness, all of these things. How do you heal from that? That requires also healing, and if you don't know how to process it in the right way, it can overlap into the next relationship, and then we are not available truly emotionally, and our heart there's no space because it's all occupied from the previous hurt and the pain. So we're not even ready to move on to the next relationship, right? So what we kind of talked about and worked on is the same thing, right? Going back to this tool of okay, what's the message? Right? Because if we get the message and we understand the why and the function of that, it helps us to process it. And then not just that it makes us whole again and complete and at peace with what is and what happened, and to understand that I'm good with that, but it also helps me to move forward into the next relationship and what life has to offer to me. Because so many times we're looking in the past and said, oh, it used to be so good. Why isn't it there anymore? Why is that, right? And we're holding on to the nostalgia of this and how things used to be, and it was so good. But you see, like, life is moving forward. And if you hold on and cling on to how things used to be, whether it's a relationship or maybe, a business, really, the business model needs to change. It's outdated, right? COVID changed everything. But now I'm holding on to my previous business model, but I don't pause and find that peace, right? Inside, it's like, no, this is perfect. Like you were saying, my reaction to it is what sabotages everything. What's the message here? And if I focus on that, I can find the answer. And so with that person that I worked with, one of the conclusions was that the message was that breakup really awakened her deeper desire for really being a truthful, honest connection to the light of the Creator. And it was such a beautiful thing, because what she described to me is like for the first time in her life, like the prayer was in all honesty, and it was a true craving, right? A true realizing that what I want is actually a stronger connection, to be connected and aligned to my source. And I told her, like, if anything this has brought you, I know this is painful, I know it's a process, and we're human beings, it takes time to heal and to get over things. But if anything it has brought you is that, a stronger desire, it was worth it. Because this is something you take with you for the rest of your life. This is something that stays with you forever and improves the quality of your life in every sense, right?
What are some tools we can give our listeners to help them be more in touch with that natural connection to the Creator, especially when they're in pain physically, emotionally, they're bombarded, overwhelmed with those old belief systems? Is there any kind of questioning or even a mantra that we can use this week that will help us to elevate our thought process and help identify some of the culprits to the illness?
Yeah, I think a very good starting point is actually starting with love. Because when we talk about healing, we didn't talk about it actually, and we should have actually
about it now.
Start with it now. Like, where does healing come from? Right? What does it mean to how do I heal? Where does it come from? How do I access that? And where does it come from? Right? So there's a Kabbalistic term in a sentence, right? Ani Hashem Rofecha, which means I'm God, or the source, or the light, your healer. So healing, we are not the ones that heal. Even if we're going to a healer or whatever it is, or a doctor, the doctor is not the ones that heals.
Our teacher Rav Berg used to say a person has an issue and they see 10 doctors. Why is the 11th doctor the one who figures out what to do or what's the cure? Because it's only at that point in that person's process that they have awakened the light of healing. So It's not the doctor, it's not the pill, it's not the procedure, it's the light of healing that is ready to come in.
That's so beautiful. A little side note, I heard something else really interesting about doctors or healers, that every profession actually has an energy force. It has, we call it an angel, right? And so doctors or healers, there's an energy there, right? They're only channels, and there's a reason, Tikkun or previous life, there's a reason for their soul process, why their soul has chosen that profession right now that's needed for their. But that's only an opportunity for them, and it's an opportunity for them to be a channel for something bigger than them. So a truly good healer or doctor understands that he or she is only a channel, and if they come from this humble place, and it's another good, beside love, we'll talk about it, is the idea of humility, that I'm not the healer, I don't have the answers, and also the humility, this person is not going to heal me, this person... I'm a channel, and people are channels for the force of healing. So good doctors or healers, they have actually an angel that is an angel of healing. Sometimes it's Angel Raphael. And so sometimes, and there are stories like that where people got into the doctors of they really felt sick or ill, and they got to the doctor and immediately starting feeling better. How do you explain that? Well, spiritually speaking, they were open and receptive both ways, the doctor and the patient, to be touched by that force of feeling, by that angel, by that force, whatever, by that energy, right? I know that not always happens, right? And oftentimes there's a process, but there are stories like that. So this idea of making ourselves available, understanding that where the source is and where it's coming from, this idea of humility, and then understand that the reason why I bring up the point of love is because healing comes from the Creator, and the Creator is love. So if you want to, the first thing I would say to initiate any type of healing process, healing from trauma, healing emotionally, healing physically, whatever that might be, is to start with how can I align to the energy of love? Because when we say healing, it's like abstract, but love is maybe more of an emotion, more tangible, on something that we can awaken in a certain way. And I would say the first place to start with is self-love, right? Because sometimes it's very counterproductive that we get sick, or that was caused by stress, that was caused by maybe not feeling good enough, and then we get sick and we're like, oh, I'm so bad. Why am I getting sick? Like, what's wrong with me now, right? Oh, because that can also be taken in a bad way. Like, oh, there's a message here that means I'm not doing something right. And that's not the point, right? The point is to do it with love, to do it with kindness and gentleness towards myself. So the first place to start is like, I'm okay, right? It's like, it's okay, like to really give space to love my soul, to love the way I am, to love myself, even with this message that comes to me. And certainly if we want to be in any capacity a channels for others for healing, we need to first not diagnose and what's wrong with you, and because what energy do we put in? Like, we're putting judgment and calculation, and it's like, first a person comes to me that sometimes they just want to be listened to, right? And by listening to them, we're facilitating with love, we're facilitating already healing energy, right? So first is starting with love towards myself and towards others.
Without realizing, you just summarized last week's episode and the week before.
Oh, wow. All right. I guess just...
So if you want to hear anything about what anything else about what Daniel just said, go back to last week's episode and the week before, because
That's funny.
Last week was about listening and the week before was about love. So basically,
Good
summary, Daniel. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about the Tikkun healing process and what that looks like?
Yeah, I would love to. So first of all, I want to share the great news that we've expanded these services. I'm not the only one who's providing it, and so now we have amazing trained people and teachers and lovely souls that facilitate this service in Spanish, in Portuguese, in different time zones, so we can serve more people with that, which I'm really excited about. And the process, in short, is very simple. It will always look different, but in short, it's we're all going through a certain process. We're all going through something in what we call Tikkun. Tikkun is those things that we came in this world to change, to transform, the life lessons that we came to learn. And the journey is not easy. So whatever we're struggling with, a certain emptiness or a blockage or a fear or anything that is holding us back, what we're doing in this process is first asking a lot of questions, tracing down, where did it start? Where did I start to accumulate these false beliefs, those limiting beliefs? And when did I start to adapt that as my reality, right? Because oftentimes what we do is we differentiate between what's a belief and what's a reality. And oftentimes people don't know how to differentiate. They think it's a reality. And what we're helping them to see is it's a belief. And the good thing about realizing that is that because many times we cannot change reality, but we can change beliefs. Mm-hmm. And when we're changing beliefs, we can change the reality. Right? So we're helping people to see where their blocks are coming from to the root cause level, and that can go many, many different ways. And then help them basically to release it, to see how it's serving them, to see how there are different possibilities, right? We're not doing any magic or voodoo here. We're just accompanying people in their process and their soul journey, and allowing them to see that which they perhaps didn't see before, and so that they can make a different choice. But sometimes it's helpful to have someone accompany us to help us see that we have a choice, right? And by seeing things differently and shifting things, and we're incorporating different tools, Kabbalistic meditations and other tools to help us return that lost peace, return that peace for ourselves, so healing and breakthroughs can happen.
How would I know if I'm ready for Tikkun healing?
I think the only thing required is openness. And I think it's just if you're seeking a breakthrough, and if you're seeking a type of, like, you feel stuck in any way, and you're seeking, like, you're running in the same repetitive pattern in a loop, and you've tried many different things and you're open for this type of approach, you'd be ready.
But it has to be for you. I can't set up a session with you for my kids. Like, not my younger kids, I'm saying my older kids. Wow, I would love if they would do Tikkun healing with you, but they would have to do it. It's not something that I could do for them, right?
The minimum is for them to have a desire. I have quite a few people that booked sessions for their teenagers, for their young adults.
And the teenagers participate.
And the teenager,
okay.
I'm working with a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old. And they happen to be very, very open and very bright, and it's a joy.
So openness is the prerequisite.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's good to know, because I know a lot of people that want to bring the horse to the well, but is having trouble making them drink, kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's important to know that the essential tool is to be open.
Yeah.
And once you have that, it can go anywhere.
Totally.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel, for
Thank
being
you.
here. I'm excited for everybody to embrace what we've spoken about today. I also want to point out energetically, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more next week, is that this Saturday, which I think is this July 16th, we are beginning a period in the Kabbalistic calendar that can be uniquely challenging versus the other 51 weeks of the year. And I bring that to your attention as listeners of the Weekly Energy Boost simply because having a heightened awareness is actually the immunity booster. That by understanding there is a propensity in the next 3 weeks to be reactive, to take things personally, to be defensive, meaning not only you as the listener might fall to this, but the entire world is going to be experiencing this. There's a greater chance of conflict, of discord, of criticism, of attacking one another. And I'm not even talking on a global scale. I'm talking about in your interpersonal dealings with people, to just pay more attention to how you're taking things in and what you're putting out. It doesn't, there's some people that call it the 3 negative weeks. I don't think that it's negative. I think it's just intense.
Totally.
And if you're going, when you decide you're going to travel, you're going to backpack through Nepal for 3 weeks, you're going to make sure you have what you need in your backpack to have that be a successful trek. I'm simply sharing it so that you can put in your backpack what you need to be the most proactive, the most optimistic, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to operate with compassion, and to know that you're the only one who knows that in the room. So other people may be behaving badly, may not be showing up as their best selves, and not that you should be arrogant about it either, but just knowing that it's a trap that we can all fall to in the next 3 weeks. It is a superpower, because you can walk into every given situation with that knowledge, with not defensive, but having at least that, take everything with a grain of salt. It might not be what it looks like. They might not be telling the truth. They might be coloring the truth. Everybody who's, what do they say? Hurt people, right? So it's really important to take all of your spiritual knowledge and shove it to the forefront of your mind for the next 3 weeks. Do what you can to make sure you are recharged, you are positive, you are doing for yourself the things that set you up to be a positive force, and it won't be that intense after all. It's really about putting the things in your backpack that you will help you be successful. That will impact everything around you. We also want to invite our listeners to go to weeklyenergyboost.com, where we have a special offer for Tikkun healing sessions for this week only. So make sure the moment you finish listening, you go to weeklyenergyboost.com and check out the link to sign up, as well as the special coupon code we have for our listeners to have discounted sessions for this week. You don't have to book, you don't have to have the session this week, but you have to book the session this week. It can be for future sessions. And as Daniel said, we're so excited to be able to have that service available in different languages, in different areas of the world, so that you don't have to depend on Daniel's schedule to get you in.
Yeah, because you might need to wait.
Yes, but it's worth the wait. And I have heard from so many people, it's not only my own experience, it's so many people's experience on how powerful and impactful having that accompaniment in your journey can be. You can also check out the other offers we have on Kabbalah.com. We want to invite you to follow us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. We're also on YouTube, of course, and everywhere podcasts are found, no matter where you're listening. It's important to remember that. Please continue to like, rate, and review. Let us know how we're doing. That's how we grow and learn and get feedback from you. If you have any questions, you can also reach us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.
Thank you.